It's time for another Business Analysis Live. I'm Susan Moore. I'm the Community Engagement Manager at IIBA.
And I'm Scott Bennett. I'm the Manager of Business Analysis here at the International Institute of Business Analysis. Today, our topic is starting your business analysis career with certification.
We get a lot of questions about this. And so today, we're really making you the center of this conversation. What do you want to know about this? Because you guys ask us this question quite a bit. And we've got some thoughts. Maybe you guys in the audience also have some thoughts today, too.
That's right. We are live, so we're taking your questions live. So put them in the chat. To kick things off, tell us what country you're watching from. And if you're listening to this on our podcast or watching on YouTube, put that in the comments as well. We'd love to hear where our audience is from.
How do we get started in business analysis? And I know a couple of we've come at it from a couple of use cases, as the professionals say. We've talked about how students might get into it, but we've also talked about people that are coming from some other profession into business analysis. So which of those where do you want to start?
Well, let's start with the transitioning in rather than being brand new to working in a profession. So, I've worked with a number of people over the years that have been professional accountants, they've been in marketing, and they've worked on a project and they've discovered this idea, this thing called business analysis, and they want to learn more about it, and it really ends up becoming their career. That transition step can be difficult. It's really, we've talked about this before, it's something that's easiest to do when you're in an organization and you've got a reputation, you can maybe work on a project and get your way in there. It's more difficult to go from one organization doing one job and starting a business analysis career in another organization.
Yeah, I think that is the challenge. And, you and I have talked about some of the things that we often see is that people think that as they're moving from one profession into business analysis, well, it's all going to be brand new. I've got to maybe I haven't prepared in any way. And so I need to learn this whole set of skills. But, my experience has been, and for the folks that I've worked with who have transitioned in, they bring a whole bunch of transferable skills from whatever they were doing. And so I think you're right. If you have the ability to work on a project, maybe as a subject matter expert, or maybe it just kind of a working on a piece of it, I think it can give you an insight and you can bridge those skills over. So first of all, you probably have the professional skills that you need to do this work.
Yeah, so working in an office environment or professional environment, the way you communicate, the way you listen, the way you collaborate with team members, that's all the skills that you've got that you're bringing to the table. So when we talk about certification for starting your career, it really is about what is the knowledge that you don't have yet. And in IIBA, we have a certification intended for that. It's called the Entry Certificate for Business Analysis, or ECBA. So you don't have any business analysis experience yet, but you want to be able to demonstrate that you understand the fundamentals of business analysis and you can speak that language. So that's really what this certification is all about. If you do have more experience, there are other certifications that you can pursue. But this is intended for people that want to get in the career, people that want to demonstrate they've studied this, they understand it, and to a potential employer or someone within your organization where you want to move to, demonstrate that you're really committed to this.
We have often talked about the language of business analysis, and I think that is really important. But I also want to let folks know that the language of business analysis isn't like something completely foreign. A lot of the terms that we use, you've probably heard before. So some of the techniques, flow charts, processes, all of those kinds of things, that's part of the language of business analysis. And at least what think I mean by that is, how are these things packaged together? What are the knowledge areas that make up what we do? That to me is really more of what the language is. And again, I think whether you read our business analysis standard, which is actually, it's a free download that's available on our website, or if you want full on business analysis language, the full BABOK guide, I think you get a sense of what are the important things that make our profession possible.
And I'm going to stop you there, Susan. So sometimes we use acronyms and we don't catch ourselves. So for those
Uh-oh.
of you who have never heard of a BABOK, this is the Business Analysis Body of Knowledge. So BOK, Body of Knowledge. This is the global standard for business analysis. It's the language that the industry uses. So that BABOK guide is something that IIBA has published with a global community. So we've got that as a standard. And we do have it available in a number of different languages. We've got it. Let's see. You and I had worked out what's the language here in terms of where this is
Yeah.
available.
Yeah, so there you go. So in addition to English, it's also been translated into all of these languages: Chinese, Standard French, French Canadian, German, Japanese, Portuguese, and I'm sure more to come. Actually, I'm almost certain more to come. So there's also learning the language of business analysis in your own language. That is, for those of you that may not be native English speakers, we want to meet you where you are, because we know that business analysis really is an international it's an international thing. Organizations and governments all over the world are employing it.
Yeah,
um,
yeah.
so um,
So we've talked about if you're transitioning from one career into business analysis, this ECBA certification may be helpful. But if you're just starting a professional career, maybe you finished school, you want to get into business analysis, maybe you studied a little bit in school and want to pursue this career, the ECBA certification can be helpful as well. I've mentored a few new grads about getting their first job and helping them through that process. And the ECBA certification that they have earned actually helped them. And my guidance to them was, this is a big thing for someone at your career stage. So take that ECBA logo that you're allowed to use and put it right on the top of your resume. That will demonstrate that at your particular level, starting your career, you've got an advantage over potentially some of these other people that you're competing against.
I feel like sometimes we as business analysis professionals are kind of humble. So when we do great things, we don't often promote it. But you get a badge. You get a badge with our certifications. Actually, you get a badge when you're an active member. Put that on social media. I mean, let people know. To me, I think what that certification does, and you and I have also had this conversation, like, what is certification really? A certificate or a certification isn't really going to get you the job, but what it is going to demonstrate is that you've identified that you are part of this community. And the preparation for that is going to help you study. It's going to help you understand that language that we're talking about and how you can apply it. So be and listen, it's hard. I mean, you've got two. I see them right over your shoulder there. CBAP, which is the top one. Yep, and then the Business Data Analytics certification.
Yeah,
So it is a real commitment, and let's just go full search engine optimization here. When you have those letters on your resume or on your LinkedIn profile, you are literally findable with keyword searches. Yeah.
absolutely. Actually, the best practice in the LinkedIn space is at the end of your name to put your certification. So I've got a CBAB, so it says Scott Bennett, comma, CBAB. And that makes it ultimately findable. In fact, when I'm posting comments, and you will see some of them today, people posting comments that have certifications, you'll actually see the certification when they post a comment. So that's the best practice.
Now, Carl has said that he has it, but Carl, you should put that ECBA after your name. It's probably in your LinkedIn profile, um, but yeah. So we're always excited when people show that they've worked really hard to achieve this. So
Yeah.
let's see. As you can imagine, we are starting to get tons of questions, which is great because that's what we wanted to do today. So let's pull up a couple of questions.
Yeah, that
Let's
sounds good.
let's All right. So here's kind of a long one. This is from Mary. Um, what about the mature business an analyst professional who still enjoys the tools and techniques? How do you transition to current state business analysis and restart? What are your insights for the ECBA and other certifications to move forward with a BA career today? I feel like there's a couple of things here that we could answer.
Yeah.
Do you want to?
Yeah. So if you do have experience, so ECBA is designed for someone that has zero experience. If you've got 2 to 3 years of experience, there's a CCBA certification. And if you're up to 5 to 7, you can do your CBAP certification, which is, let me see if I can figure it out. Right
That one.
there.
Good job. Yep.
Um, so if you do have experience, there are other certifications that give you demonstration that not only you understand it, but you've got experience. So the certifications are more difficult because they rely on experience in terms of demonstrating your skill and being able to work through the exam.
And there's so Mary, you may also have some interest in some specialized areas as well. And so there are some certifications, some specialized certifications that we have around the business data analytics, which Scott has, the agile analysis certification, which I have. There's also a product ownership analysis certification, and there is also a cybersecurity analysis certification. And those you can just dive more deeply into whatever that topic is. It's another great way for you to show your commitment to that particular specialty, and probably learn some things as well too. So they're all great opportunities.
Yeah, and let me just highlight that when you said you'll probably learn some things. When I studied for my CBAP certification, I had 10 years of experience in the industry, and I still learned something from studying. In the CBDA space, so learning about data analytics, I did learn a lot out of studying for it. So it isn't just getting a certifications to help you in your career or to demonstrate your knowledge. You are going to get some learning out of this because it is that global perspective on a particular area.
I think that's maybe what some people don't really prepare themselves for when they're working on this any kind of a certification. Is it's not about the outcome, it's about that journey of learning things. So
Yeah.
yes, so I really agree with that. Let's see, here's another comment. This is from Karthik. I'm working as a BA for 2.5 years, and there's no standardization. Some projects are good and some are bad. Karthik, I unfortunately, I feel like this is sometimes the reality that there can be, there can be an organization's own way of doing business analysis, which I think can be not the same as what you might find in our body of knowledge, or might even be different from what you've experienced in another company that you've worked for.
Yeah, and certainly studying the business analysis body of knowledge, that BABOK guide, you'll understand where those key elements are that you should be working on. So depending on where your experience is so far, you might not have been exposed to all of those. And my personal experience was I didn't know anything about requirements traceability. Had never heard of the concept until I studied the BABOK guide. And it helped me on a $10 million project with 5 other BAs control requirements that went to 100 different systems. Traceability saved me probably a lot of stress and increased the quality of that project. So there are good practices out there. In your organization, if you have multiple BAs, there's this concept of a center of excellence. That's where you can pull people together and you can figure out what's working well, what's not. And how do you make that stuff that's working well repeatable so you can have better chances for success? So something to think about.
Another thing that I think, whether it is being part of a professional association like the International Institute of Business Analysis, um, or participating in one of the chapters that are all over the world, or even having your certification, I think it makes you an ambassador for the profession. Because once you've put all that effort into learning it and surrounding yourself with like-minded professionals who you can engage in conversations about the practice of business analysis, I think it gives you license to be an ambassador for the profession within your organization. So Karthik, who knows? Maybe this conversation today will inspire you to start a center of excellence, or maybe even a community of practice, which is another grouping of folks who can talk about the practice of analysis in your organization. And maybe you can be the one that can take those bad projects to make them better. Who knows?
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, for sure.
All righty.
Wow,
So
we have a ton of comments here. I think it's the most comments we've ever had.
Oh my gosh, I know, I accidentally lost one and I was, let's see. All right.
Business
So
Analysis Live is really taking off.
we are live and really feeling it today. Thank you. Hey, so I'm going to share. This is actually, so Carl, who just got his ECBA, said,
Congratulations.
right? He says, what value does HR give to this designation? Oh, that's an interesting question. So my experience is organizations they can handle certifications differently. I know I've worked in organizations where they would give you kind of what we called a spot bonus. So they gave you maybe some sort of an incentive, and they paid for that. They might even pay for your certification. But
Yeah.
now, what value does HR give it? I'm not sure. Have you had experience where uh, your organization did something different after you had a certification?
Yes, so I have seen some organizations pay higher because of certification. Now, I can't say that's universal. That's just my own experience. But if you look at it from an HR perspective, they have professionals across the organization, and they won't necessarily recognize an ECBA. But if you're certified in your industry, they might recognize that. I think it might be more important for the hiring manager, your direct manager, or someone above that would say, hey, you know what? We have so many professionals that are certified. So they can sort of talk about it that way. But as a manager, where I've had certified people, I actually rely on them to help others understand the profession and what we're working on. So, in a center of excellence, for example, I'd want to get as many certified people working on that with me as possible because I know they've got that broad spectrum of understanding what it is what we do, rather than just from their own personal experience.
Um, yes. So, yeah, I think you answered it.
Thank you for the question, Carl.
High five. Thanks, Carl. Let's see. So let's take another question here. This is from Ankita. I did the ECBA certification last year. Have had no benefit in India in terms of finding a new job. What
Oh,
to do?
wow.
Yeah. Well, and I know, we have often been pretty honest. I think that certification alone won't get you that job. So Ankita, what are the other things that you can bring to the table? What experience? So if you are moving maybe from some other profession into business analysis, what transferable skills do you have, and also talk in terms of what achievements you've had and tie those into the jobs that you are looking for, right? Because it's not, so I know sometimes, Scott, we've had questions about, well, I haven't done this job before, and I think sometimes folks think in terms of resumes as just a list of the responsibilities that they've had in that job.
Right. Yeah.
When we've talked with recruiters and other HR professionals, what they've said is, don't just focus on responsibilities from your other jobs. What is going to distinguish you is the achievements that you've had in those other jobs. And that might be, again, we're humble, but you really do have to think about, what are those projects that you've worked on in whatever that other job was, where you have made a difference, where you have, increased profit, reduced loss, reduced risk, done any of those things, because those are the things that can distinguish you. And then that ECBA really is just, it's icing on the cake, as they say.
Yeah. Another thing you can do, Ankita, is connect with your local chapter. So in India, I know there are at least 5 chapters.
That's right.
Hyberland, Chennai, I might be mispronouncing it, Bangalore, Mumbai. So there are a number of chapters out there. And what those are networking opportunities for you to connect with other business analysis professionals. So there might be organizations that have not yet heard about an ECBA certification, but if you're networking with people in chapters, they're in organizations that would obviously recognize that and appreciate it. So it might be a good opportunity for you to meet some people to maybe network into a career position.
And let's give a shout out to the work that our chapters do all over the world. We've got about 120 all over the world. They are staffed with amazing volunteers who give up their time in order to lead those chapters, come up with incredible programming. So, our chapters do everything from having Speakers come in and talk about specific topics. Many do study groups. So if you want to prepare for an ECBA or any of the certifications, very often a chapter local to you may be doing a study group, which is a great way to learn with others. They also do professional development days. So again, and they are even doing in-person events these days. So I can't say enough, especially for our profession, of being part of a network of people. And when you become an IIBA member, you become part of a chapter automatically. It's actually not an additional expense. And that chapter relationship that you have is invaluable for finding a job, studying, meeting new people, just solving the day-to-day problems. It's really invaluable.
Yeah, and we do actually have a chapter that is doing a study group on a monthly basis, Tampa in Florida, in the U.S. So we'll drop a link in here that you can get to that. They're doing a study group tomorrow.
That's right. And many of our chapters do study outside of the US and Canada, do study groups in other languages. So it seems to me I've seen one in French recently. And, along with having the body of knowledge guide to go with that, wow, you're studying in your native language with folks that are also speaking it. So I think that is fantastic. So let's
Yeah,
see.
no, why don't we just manage expectations here a little bit? We do have the BABOK guide in a number of different languages. The ECBA exam is available in English, Standard French, French Canadian, Japanese, and we're working on more languages. So you can study in more languages right now than you can do the exam, but I just want to be transparent in terms of these are the exam languages at this point.
Yeah, a good reminder. Yeah, we are making sure that that our standards, well, that particular standard is in other languages, and we also want eventually other exams to be in that language as well.
Yeah.
Well, let's see. Here's our next question. This is from Mark. Hey, Mark. A lot of people fall into the business analysis career path. I'm going to raise my hand here, and businesses don't have an established business analyst function. Yes, I've worked for this company. Um, they don't have the external awareness of standards and practices until they are using platforms. Yeah, so I think this happens, right? Because as much work as IIBA has done and other organizations and even chapters locally in helping local organizations understand there is a standard practice that you could be using. Um, it's not out there. There are companies that just they've done it their own way for a long time, and that's just the way that it is. But again, as we said, I think you can bring if you're studying and getting certified, then I think you can bring that expertise into your organization and even just in small ways start to influence the practice of business analysis.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah,
Yeah.
when you bring a technique to the table, for example, to help a group solve a problem, you're demonstrating business analysis. And feel free to talk about it as, hey, this is a business analysis skill that I've learned. The more you talk about it with your group and people see the value out of that, they will start to understand, oh, this is something called business analysis. It is an education process.
And let's talk about that soft skill, essential skill that you just mentioned. That's called influence. And so influence is one of those things where it can take a long time. It can be very subtle. It's not one of those things that you're going to go in and use influence overnight to change the practice. Influence really is about building understanding and awareness and helping to kind of have that seep through an organization. So influence, that's an important essential skill that business analysis professionals need to bring to the table.
Yeah.
Alrighty, let's see. Here's a good one. Paul Cash, what roles are the role designations we can target if we are already working as a business analyst or a business systems analyst? Oh, I feel like the sky is the limit on this one. And actually, we'll talk about this at the end today, but we've got our next podcast is exactly on this topic, Paul Cash.
Yeah, that's funny.
All right. So, Paul Cash, we're going to need to see you in 2 weeks because we are going to answer exactly this question. So this is a great question.
Yeah.
Total business analyst, right? Asking the question well before anyone knows it needs to be a question. So good job.
Yeah, and it's funny. We'll just go back 2 weeks ago. We talked about the power of curiosity and how curiosity drives us as business analysis professionals to ask questions, to dig deeper. So, yeah, it's all tying together.
That's right. And again, another shout out for one of those essential skills that business analysis professionals can bring from anywhere that is curiosity. So let's see. Um, let's how about so this is not so much so this is another I don't think it's a question for Mark as much as it is kind of a statement. An RPA certification. So this is robotics process automation
Yeah.
certification that's available with UiPath. You know, one of the things that we have done with our ECBA is we are starting to. So, let me take it back a step because as we are talking about the practice of business analysis not necessarily being standardized, one of the things that we have done in some of our partnerships, like UiPath, is we are helping to bring more awareness of standardized business analysis practices into those domains, and robotics process automation is a great example of that. And so UiPath is a provider of basically, okay, this is my words. They are a provider of automation software, so you can build bots and things like that with their software. And so they've got a certification, and you can also include in there a business analysis certification and sit for the ECBA as part of that. So yeah, so Mark, I don't know if you've done that certification path through UiPath, but that's a great just another way that we're building business analysis into other kinds of work.
Yes, and another topic we have in our backlog that's coming up in 4 weeks is requirements engineering. We're going to talk about that a little bit.
Yeah, that's great. And I know that we've also talked several months ago about HR and building business analysis into human resources, into the development of human resource professionals. And so we also have that partnership with it's HRPA, Human Resources Professional Association, which is based out of Ontario. So there you go. Great reminder. Let's see. Maybe here we'll take Patricia's question. Is there a bank of questions that I can practice the ECBA test? Um, there is on our website, there is a handbook which I believe has sample questions, and
Yeah.
and so
On the
that's
website, I think there are 10 questions that you can sort of
okay.
go through. And those questions are good as a starting point. So if you're thinking about certification, maybe go through and answer those 10 and see how you score on them. I did this before I did the business data analytics. And I was surprised that, oh, I didn't quite get that one. I didn't quite get that one. It showed me there was a bit of a knowledge gap. But IIBA does not have a bank of practice questions. If you are looking for something like that, there are education providers that provide training and sometimes provide question banks as well.
Yeah, there's and Patricia, there are some good ones out there that you can connect with. Again, they are endorsed education providers, so know that when you use their bank of exam questions, that they will be based on the business analysis body of knowledge and they'll have an understanding of the exam that you choose. Let's see. Oh, here's a this was a shout out for you. Too many people think years of experience mean they won't learn anything new from certifications, and I know that has not been the case, or that yeah, that was the case for me. I when I did my BA certification, I was maybe a little confident, overconfident about what I thought I might know, and then of course you get the reality check of of the practice exams and the course and all that kind of stuff. So really, it's I think that the certification can provide you so many other benefits besides just that outcome. All right, here's another question I think is for you. This is from Vineet. The CBDA certification does it add value in the Indian job market? We probably can't speak to that, but maybe you can share your experience with having it in the Canadian job market.
Yeah, so for me, data analytics was something that we were doing more and more internally at IIBA. Dregina, who works with me, she's a business analyst, heads up this work. And we went through the certification to understand more about, as a business analysis professional, how do we engage appropriately? So you understand how to understand your audience, your stakeholders, and really pull out of them what is it they're looking for and appreciate how technical they are or not. And that's really important when you get to the end of the cycle. So there's a nice cycle in it where you understand what the need is, then you go and look for the data, maybe work with a database analyst to figure that out. You source the data, you look at meaning, and then the key part is how do you present that meaningful information back to the stakeholder? So you have to understand the stakeholder and how technical they are, but also there are many different techniques on how you present meaning to the stakeholders. So, from a job market perspective, I would say data analytics is hot right now. Getting a CBDA will help you understand and appreciate that whole domain. But specific to the Indian job market, I can't speak to that.
You mentioned that data analytics is hot. Actually, so we have chapters, but we also have something at IIBA called a special interest group. And in fact, the special interest group that is currently in motion is our business analytics special interest group, and they do at least a once a month webinar. Actually, the next one is this week. It's June 8th, and there's three different times. Our speaker is out of Australia, so he is very kind to do three different times to hit three different audiences. And he's been doing a great job of exposing the special interest group members to just all kinds of facets of business analytics, from tooling to survey design and all kinds of things. So um, if you head over to iiba.org and go to our webinars page, you will see the upcoming special interest group. I think we just have one more. The July one has been rescheduled, but that's another way that you can meet people. Interesting enough in a virtual webinar, but it is a great way to connect.
Yeah, and I did a virtual presentation for the India conference called Business Analysis Impact in March. And I did actually share three examples of business data analytics of what we're doing internally at IIBA. So people can actually see it's not just theory, this is how we're doing it in our particular organization.
I think it's so important as we are talking about these different specializations within business analysis that folks understand how you would apply it, because if it's something you're interested in but you're not doing it in your organization, something like attending a talk or participating in a chapter and knowing someone that is doing that can give you
Yep.
real life examples of how you can apply that.
Yeah.
Um, so let's
So
see.
here's a question. Can I take the exam even if I'm not an IIBA member?
Ooh, good
So
question.
the answer is yes. You can study for the exam and purchase the exam. So you purchase the exam, but you also need the access to the BABOK guide. So you'll need to purchase that as well. Um, if you are a member, there's a discount for for purchasing the certification, and as a member, you get free access to the BABOK guide. So there's a bit of mathematical equation there that membership has its privileges.
It does, and so I know that I very often talk to potential members about, why I came for the certification, what else should I stick around for? And since so many of our questions today are related to finding the job, our members also have access to a competency development workbook. So we have a competency development guide. So, and that's just a way to understand across each of the knowledge areas what the proficiency levels are. If there's a quiz that's involved, it's completely subjective, so it's how you think you're doing, but then it helps you to plan out where you might develop in those areas. In addition, we have a career center that comes with a load of benefits. So there's, in addition to a job board that you get first dibs on if you're members. So that's it's kind of aggregating job postings from all over the world. um, there is a career center with all kinds of resources. There's a resume upload where you can get feedback from a career coach on your resume. There's, you can take a look at the stats for things like salary information. You can connect with other coaches, tons and tons of stuff. in addition to being part of a chapter and all of the other benefits that you get. So there really is, there's a lot of benefits to membership besides just, the discounts that you get.
Yeah.
All right. So
Well,
let's,
we have so many questions here, Susan. We're going to have to take some of these and put them on our backlog for future episodes.
I know. Well, and so, but we knew that the folks that listen, they would have a lot of questions around this because that is typically, I think, some of the questions that we get the most in here is how do I start or how do I get certified?
Yeah.
Um, Here, I'll give a Yvonne says shout out to automatically including that local chapter membership. Thanks, Yvonne. I believe that it is so important for people to be part of some kind of organization where they can network and just talk to people that do what they do. So I'm really glad that we made that change. We did that just about, oh gosh, just about 2 years ago, I think. Yeah.
Yeah.
Let's see. All righty. Maybe we have time for one more question. Maybe here. I'm just gonna This is Mahmoud. I want to start a BA career in my job. How can I prepare? I feel like this is kind of the overarching question of the day. Um, so we've talked about a couple of things. So just taking stock of what you've done previously, I think is really important. Think about those achievements. Um, get to know some business analysts. If you're working in an organization today and there are some business analysts, I know Scott, you've talked about like have a meet and greet with them, go to lunch with them, get to know business analysts and what a day in the life is like. That'll
Mhm.
give you some insight into how you can prepare. What else would you suggest?
Yeah, I do like the idea of reaching out. I've had a number of people reach out to me. I think it's important that when you're reaching out to someone, it's in your local community. So you can reach out to someone halfway around the world and get some advice, but it's not really going to help land that job. Um, Kill two birds with one stone. If you find someone locally that can give you advice, but because they're local, they also know the market. They have other people in their network. They can have a pulse on, oh, you know what? I know this organization's hiring, or someone just left this position, so there might be a position open. That's really, I think, that the key to getting started in there.
Yeah, so good luck, Mahmoud, on your journey to becoming a business analysis professional. And you're right, we've got tons more questions, so stay tuned. We might be answering your question on an upcoming Business Analysis Live. But with that, I think I think we'll wrap up for today.
Yeah, it's been a great discussion. Lots
Oh
of
my
rapid
gosh.
fire questions here. Having a hard time reading them and picking out which ones to tackle, but we'll definitely put them on the backlog. So thank you everyone for your participation today. And Susan, why don't you tell everyone about our next episode?
Well, and this one is for you, Paul Cash. We are going to be talking about career progression for business analysis. It's another question that we get a lot of, and this time we have got an expert. Maria Montgomery is going to join us. She's a career coach. She's a speaker. She is an author, and this is her specialty. So if you want to know what might be next in your career, well, you're going to want to see us in about 2 weeks, June 21st, at this time, and we're going to give you some insights. We'll see you soon.
If you enjoyed this video, please give it a thumbs up, and we'll leave another one right here for you to help you in your business analysis career. If you haven't subscribed to the IIBA YouTube channel yet, you can click over here and click on the bell icon to get notified every time we publish a brand new video.